So today's daf yomi is Kiddushin Yun Gimel, but we're going to start on the bottom of 52b. And today's daf yomi is sponsored in memory of my friend Ellie Mandelbaum's mother, and that's Regina Mandelbaum, and her name was Italea Bas Sender. So all of our Torah study today is in memory of Italea Bas Sender. So today's daf yomi, we're going to start on the bottom of Nun Beis and Mabez, and we're discussing a case of a woman who was betrothed with the Kodshim, the portion of the Kohen's carbon. So under those circumstances, Rabbi Yehuda says Mekudeshes. Rabbi Yehuda says the vow of betrothal. Rabbi Yossi Omer Ein Mekudeshes. Rabbi Yossi says it's not a vow of betrothal. And Amar Rabbi Yochanan Shnei Mikra Echad Darshan. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yehuda says it does work, and Rabbi Yossi says it doesn't work. They both darshan from the same verse. What's the pasuk? This will be for you from the Kodesh Kodashim, from the fire. Rabbi Yehuda savar lecha. It's yours. You can do whatever you want. You can betroth a woman with it. Rabbi Yossi savar ke'esh. No, it's like fire. Just like fire is for consumption. So too, this is also for consumption. And so therefore, Rabbi Yossi says you can't betroth a woman with it because it's supposed to be consumed on the fire. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, or eaten it, but not betrothed it. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, on top of Nun Gimel Amar Aleph, Nimnu v'Gamru, they decided, they took a vote, and they stood up and they decided I'm a Kaddish Mechalko, Ben Kodesh Kodesh, Ben Kodesh Kalam Will Kiddush. Everybody paskin like Rabbi Yossi that you can't betroth with a portion of the carbon. But Rabbi Yehuda changed his mind, or they voted out Rabbi Yehuda, and they said that the halacha like Rabbi Yossi, you can't be Mekadesh. That's Rabbi Yochanan's understanding. But Rav says no, Dayin Himachokes. Rabbi Yehuda sticks to his guns. It's still a dispute. It was never resolved. They didn't stand up and vote, and Rabbi Yehuda did not recant. So Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yehuda was outvoted, and Rav says Rabbi Yehuda never changed his mind and he wasn't outvoted. Amar Abaye Kibasat Rabbi Yochanan Mistaretz Lazul to assume like Rabbi Yochanan Tatan Yunayin Shein Cholkim Menachos Keneged Zvachim, because we have a brisa, and the Gemara can say that the stam brisa is Rabbi Yehuda, and that's how this will be approved. But the brisa says, how do you know that you can't trade, like divide up the Karban Mincha? The one coin says, I'll give you my portion in the grain offering in exchange for your portion in the meat offering. How do we know that we can't do that? Meaning to say, and the darshan from the verse is that since it says kol mincha, means to say that the mincha itself they could divide, but they can't exchange it for this vacham. So come and I think, okay, you can't change the karban mincha for an animal offering, because when you're too poor to bring a zebach under certain circumstances, you can bring an oaf, but you can't bring a karban mincha. You can't go down two levels. You go down to a bird, but not to a grain offering. So therefore, I might think you can exchange the menachos for this vachim. But yacholku menachos can get ofos. But if you can't afford the bird offering, you could bring a grain offering. So I might think that you could exchange the mincha for the ofos, shari kamotachtem bedalos, because they're next to each other with the exchange. When you're poor, Talmud Omer, kol nat seven marchashes l'kol bnei Aaron tiyeh. It says this verse by the marchashes to teach us by the deep pan, a mincha, to teach us that you can't exchange it for an ofos. Can I get ofos? So say, okay, I might think you just can't change a grain offering for a bird offering because one has blood and one has flour. Well, yachoku ofos can I get zvachim, but I could exchange the ofos, the bird offering, for this vachim shalo valo mine damim, because both of them are blood offerings. Says the verse on the pan, meaning to say that you can't exchange it. almost same You say, okay, I might think you just can't exchange the bird offering for the blood offering because one, you sprinkle the blood with your hand, and one, you have to receive the blood in the utensil. But you could split up one korban mincha in exchange for another korban mincha. Because both of them are by the hand. It says in the verse, every mincha that is mixed with oil shall go to all the children of Aaron. Meaning to say that you can't exchange it the different minachos for another type of minchos. Okay, I might think that you can't change one frying pan, one that's made on a flat pan, for one made in a deep pan. And the marcheshes keneged machavas shezuma same rakim zuma same kashim, because one has soft grain and the soft flour, and the other one has hard flour. So I think that's why you can't exchange them, because the ones in the flat griddle, they make hard pieces, and the ones in the deep pan make soft pieces. So that you can't change it. But if you have two separate menachos, I might think that the Kohen could change his portion with them. Or inami masirachim, because they're both the same type of offering. Tam Omer, it says in the pasuk, Chareva chol b'nei Aaron tiyeh, and the word Chareva is extra to teach us that you're not allowed to exchange one mincha for another mincha, even if they're the same type of mincha. So then the Gemara says, I might think, okay, the Kohen can exchange it for a Kodesh Kodashim, but the Kohanim can exchange Kodesh Kalim amongst them. Like, for example, if one person has a Karban Shlomim, he wants to exchange it for somebody else's Karban Toda, or vice versa, I might think that that's okay. The verse states in pasuk, for all of the sons of Aaron shall be each one for his brother. Next to that pasuk it says, "V'zos Torah zevach hashlamim im al todah yakribenu," to teach us shem shein cholkim b'kodesh kodashim kach ein cholkim b'kodesh kalim, that you can't exchange just like you can't do in kodesh kodashim, so too you can't do kodesh kalim. And then the verse tells us at the end of the verse, it says, what does it mean when it says "L'kol b'nei Aaron tiyeh ish ke'achav"? We learn out from here that also the sons of Aaron themselves are included. Ish choek afilu ba'al mum. So this is nothing to do with the laws of exchange, but this is telling us that who gets the Bryce is finishing on a little tangent. The Bryce is telling us that who gets to divide up these karbanos. Ish choek, even if he has a blemish, ve'ena katan. So a kohen who has a blemish can divide it up. But a katan, a minor as a blemish, cannot divide it up. Afilu tam, even if he doesn't have a blemish. So now the Gemara brings its proof. Stam Sifra Mani. Who is the author of the anonymous prices in general? Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda, Lahu Kamar, Doespa Din Chaluka. Rabbi Yehuda says one coin can't exchange with the other. Means to say it's not really his, so that's why you can't exchange it. So therefore, if you can't exchange it, presumably you also can't be Mekadesh with it. And so therefore, this is the proof that Rabbi Yehuda changed his mind and he agrees with Rabbi Yossi. Hold on. So Rabbi Yehuda changed his mind and he agrees with Rabbi Yossi. And so therefore, Rabbi Yehuda, that everybody's saying you can't be Mekadesh with it. So it's a proof for Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara says, Shema Mina. So Amar Rava Ukaravni Lotanya. So Rava says, but don't we have a price that supports Rav's position that there's still machokas? But Tanya, didn't we learn with respect to the division of the lechem apanim, of the bread that was handed out? So we'll look at the Rashi here. It says, with respect to the lechem apanim, the bread that was prepared for the Kohanim, their price says, Arbaim Shana Shashime Shimon Tzaddik, that the 40 years that Shimon Tzaddik served in the Beis Hamikdash, Nishtalcha Bracha B'lechem apanim, there was a blessing on the bread. We call Kohen Amagio Kizayis, and whichever Kohen would get an olive-sized portion of this bread, Yesh ochel v'sava, yesh ochel motir. Some would eat it and they would have leftover, and some would eat it and they would be completely satisfied. So, mikan ve'elach, but after Shimon HaTzadik, nishtalsha me'era b'lechem, the curse went into the nishtalcha me'era b'lechem, the curse went into the lechem upon him. B'chol kol amagil kapul, and then every Kohen only would get amount the size of of a bean. He would get a very, very small amount. So then that's new emotional and yodem mimenu. Then the modest ones would say, I don't need any, I'll leave it for other people. They would not take it. Because it doesn't help. Gargarin, but the gluttonous one would be cholkin. Because Salka died, the Gemara's assumption here is at the beginning of this discussion, Dai cholkin, lav we told cholko hamagio kamar. It's not means to say that the gluttonous would take their portion that comes to them. Kivin dinishtalchabo, the me'era kapul ma'achasi, because what's the point in taking a bean-sized amount? What it means is cholkin derech iloi, that they would exchange it. That they would exchange it with the other person, that they would do a exchange. Alma isbu din chaluka. It must be from here that we see that you could trade the karbanos, and it must be that this is Rabbi Yehuda, because the position of Rabbi Yehuda says that it's his money and he can exchange it. And Gemara is going to answer us. She says, no, there's no din chaluka. And so what does it mean when it says cholkin here? It means that he would take his portion, and if it wasn't worth it, he didn't get it to be the size of a bean, he would also be chotev the chelik of chaver avoch. He would also grab his friend's portion. And that which is stated to Mesechas Sukkah and the Chasam Cholkom Etzafa Cholkom Magil Kamar. So anyway, so that's Rashi's explanation of the whole sugya, and now we'll read it inside. So what about the bride? It says that's a new emotion. That's the Kohanim were the modest ones. They wouldn't take from the bread. The gargarinim, but the gluttonous ones would be cholkim. What does it mean that they were cholkim? Chotfim. So this is a question. Gargarinim cholkim. And so we see from here it's like Rabbi Yehuda that it was their money and they could exchange it. So Rabbi Yehuda didn't change his mind. The Gemara says, no. What does cholkim mean? Chotfim. It means that they would grab it. One guy grabbed his portion, his friend's portion, and so ben chamtzon. They called him the violent one who grabs it. And so now the Gemara wants to know, how do we know that this is what Ben Chamza means? They call him that until the day of his death. And it's based upon the pasuk, that the pasuk says, Elkei paltani miad rasha mikaf ma'avel v'chometz. So God will save me from the hands of the person who's chamas, who's violent. Rabbi says, and so we see from here, from this pasuk, that says, we need to say, be stronger over the one, ashru chamotz, be stronger over the one who is violent. So when now the Gemara says that we learned in our Mishnah that Ma'aser Sheni, that the secondary tithe, whether it was done accidentally or purposely, Rabbi Meir says you were not able to be Mekadesh with it. Rabbi Yehuda says if you did it accidentally, you didn't do it, but if you didn't base it, you were Mekadesh. So the Gemara asks the question, what is the source for this idea that Rabbi Meir says that Ma'aser Sheni is basically the money of the temple? And so therefore, Rabbi Meir is saying that Ma'aser Sheni, you can't be Mekadesh with it because it's not your money, it's the money of the temple. So Amar Rav Acha Brei Rav Mishmei the Gemara, he had a tradition. It says in the pasuk, "V'kol ma'asera aretz mizera aretz mipriya eitz Hashem hu kodesh LaHashem." So that's the pasuk that it says in Vayikra Parachav Zayin that all the mice of the aretz, from the seed of the land, from the fruit of the land, that belongs to Hashem. It's kodesh LaHashem. Hashem. So this implies Hashem who will kadesh bo'isha, that the ma'aser sheni belongs to Hashem, but you can't be mekadesh a woman with it. Where it says, what about Trumas Ma'aser, where it says Kein Tarimu Gama Tem Trumas Hashem? It says also the Trumas Hashem by Trumas Ma'aser, V'tanana Mekadesh B'Truma Mekudesh. And you can betroth with a woman with Truma. Where it says, yeah, well, the Luksiv Bei La Hashem. It says, it doesn't say for Hashem by the Trumas Ma'aser. So therefore, it's not limiting it to say you can't be Mekadesh and Isha with it. Chala is a form of Truma. Yachsev Titnu Hashem says you have to give it to Hashem. V'tanana Mekadesh B'Trumas bitrumos mekudesh. So you can betroth with challah. It says Loksiv Bei Kodesh. It doesn't say that it is Kodesh. Mari Shvius. What about the Shemitah year? Loksiv Ba Yovel He. It says it is a Jubilee year. Kodesh Yoacham. V'tanana Mekadesh Ber Shvius Mekudeshes. You can betroth with this sabbatical year. It says Loksiv Bei La Hashem. The Gemara says, but Truma. It says Kodesh Yisrael La Hashem. Rishis Tvuaso. V'tanana Mekadesh V'Truma Mekudeshes. So the Gemara says no. That is. When it says Kodesh Yisrael Hashem there, that's referring to Yisrael Ksiv. That's referring to just the Jewish people, that they're called Kodesh Hashem, like Truma. That's all it's referring to in the verse in Jeremiah. The Gemara says, so the Gemara says, well, that's not a good answer. Don't we know anyway that Truma is like that? Wouldn't we learn from that the fact that Jewish people are compared to Truma, and the Jewish people, it says Kodesh Hashem, that also Truma is Kodesh Hashem. So how do we answer that? So Tirgama Rab and Saba Tamay the Rab Amakra. Pasuk says Hashem. Who the Pasuk says that it says in the verse that we read on at the beginning of our discussion here. It says Kol Maaser Arts Mipriya Arts Mipriya Eitz Hashem Hu Kodesh Hashem. Says, which means, what do we learn from the word Hashem? Who? Baba Yaso. Yeah. That Meiser itself is the money of Hashem, but Truma is not. Truma is just Kodesh. But Truma, it doesn't say who, it just says Kodesh Hashem. Mara says, well, what about the fact? We're now on to the next. So it says in the Mishnah, a little bit of a contradiction. It says that Rabbi Meir says that if you're Mekadesh with something that was consecrated to the temple, the Kadshe Bedek Abayis, and if you did it purposely, it was Kodesh, but if you did it accidentally, it was not Kodesh. Whereas Rabbi Meir, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. He says, if you did it accidentally, it was Hekdesh. But excuse me, I have to start again. We're talking about whether or not you could be Mekadesh with a woman with something that was dedicated to the base of Mikdash. So Rabbi Meir is of the position that if you did it b'mezid intentionally, it was Kodesh, but if you did it accidentally, it didn't work. Rabbi Yehuda says that if you did it accidentally, it works, but if you did it b'mezid, it doesn't work. So the Gemara is going to have to explain that why does Rabbi Meir says that if you try to be Mekadesh a woman, try to betroth a woman with Hekdesh purposely, it works, but not accidentally. And also in the first clause of our Mishnah, why Rabbi Yehuda says that by Meiser Sheni, you could betroth with Hekdesh intentionally, and if you could betroth with Meiser Sheni intentionally, but not Peshogig. Meaning to say, why does Rabbi Meir not allow you accidentally with Hekdesh to betroth a woman, and why does Rabbi Yehuda not allow you accidentally with Meiser Sheni? So the Gemara says, Hekdesh b'mezid kodesh b'shogeg. Well, so different Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Yehuda and B'shogeg b'mezid lo kadesh. I'm Rabbi Yaakov Shmas mina to Rabbi Yochanan Tarti. So he says, I heard from Rabbi Yochanan two things. What did I hear from Rabbi Yochanan? I heard Shigas Ma'aseh Rabbi Yehuda and Shigas Hekdesh Rabbi Meir. I heard him explain why Rabbi Yehuda says you couldn't be betrothed a woman accidentally with Ma'aser Sheni, and also why Rabbi Meir is of the position that you can't betroth a woman accidentally with something that was hektish to the temple, that was consecrated to the temple. I heard him say two explanations. And Shneim ein isha miskadesh bas. And both those cases, a woman is not betrothed. But one of them was because Chadal Fisha ein isha wrote, said that a woman wouldn't have wanted it. So therefore, if she didn't know about it, it's not good. And accidentally, it's not good. But Chadal Fisha ein Shneim wrote him. And the other explanation was because neither the man or the woman would have wanted it. And so if it's done accidentally, it's no good. And I don't know which one of them, the Hektish or the Meiser Sheni, the accidental one was one of them or both of them. I don't know how we divided it up. So I'm Rabbi Yirmiyah Nilse Anan. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, okay, let's look at this closely. Meiser, when it comes to the Meiser Sheni, she doesn't want it. So she would have had to know it was Meiser Sheni. Why? Because it's a pain in the neck for her to take with all the produce and go to Jerusalem. But he'd rather she gets it. the nickname is a samamela because it'd be good for him that she's going to be betrothed with it, and so he doesn't mind at all. But the hektish is the opposite. Neither one of them would have wanted to have to redeem their hektish. Why? Because Rashi says it's a prohibition to have to redeem a hektish, because it says Mo'ei Ma'al V'im Kiddushin Hein Harei Nischala. If he's going to betroth the woman with it, he's deconsecrating the hektish, and so neither one of them would have wanted to do this, and so therefore the hektish is for both of them wouldn't have wanted it, and the Meiser Sheni is she wouldn't have wanted it. Rabbi Yaakov says just the opposite. Rabbi Yaakov argues with Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yaakov says Ibcha Mistabra. It's just the opposite. Milo Iko Ameimar. Rabbi Yaakov says Ibcha Mistabra. Isn't it logical to say Meiser Ihi Lo Nichola? She wouldn't want the Meiser Sheni to be betrothed unless she knew about it for sure. Mishum Tircha de Orcho, because it's a pain in the neck to travel it. Fit and Ihu Lo Nichole, and he wouldn't want it. Mishum Unse de Orcha, because it's going to be very hard for him, because he wouldn't have wanted it, because if she was traveling and the Meiser Sheni got ruined before she got to Yerushalayim, he's responsible for it longer because she didn't get any benefit from it. Now a hektish, but when it comes to the hektish, we could say Bishlama I Lo Nichola. It makes sense to say why she doesn't want to become betrothed with the hektish. The Nalsko hektish al yada, because she wouldn't want to deconsecrate the hektish, because it's as we just said, it's something that's prohibited to do. But he himself, Milo Nichola, the nickname is Samamela. He wouldn't have minded because he's able to betroth this woman, Mamela. He's able to betroth her Mamela, meaning to say, even though he has to pay back the hektish, the money that he betrothed her with, nevertheless it's good for him because maybe right now he doesn't have anything, so he'll pay back hektish when he gets the money. So therefore, Rabbi Yaakov says to Rabbi Yirmiyah, why do you have to learn Rabbi Yochanan's explanation that way? I could easily explain it the other way. So Ba'minei Rava mi Rav Chisda. So Rava asked the question from Rav Chisda, Isha emis kadeshes maos sheyetzel l'chulin. So he says, let's say you try to betroth her. Let's say, he says, so according to a mayor who says that Shigas Maze, it doesn't work. So you try to betroth Shigas Hektish, Shigas Hektish doesn't work. So let's say you try to betroth this woman with the money from Hektish, but you didn't realize it was Hektish. So now you give her the money. Does the money does it become chulin by trying to betroth her? And are you allowed to benefit from it? So Amarei, so Rav Chisda responds to Rabbi. So Rav Chisda responds to Rava. Isha miskadeshes. Well, Rabbi Meir says the woman is not being betrothed with this accidental money. So if that's the case, the money didn't accomplish anything, and so therefore, how did the money become chulin? The money becomes chulin. The hektish money becomes regular money if it goes out of its status. But if it doesn't take effect, then it stays in its status. So therefore, that was his answer. So by minei Rav Chia bar Avner Rav Chisda b'mecher mai. So what about if you try to buy something with the money of the hektish? Will it take effect on the on the acquisition according to a mayor or not? So Rav Chisda says, even if you tried to buy something, it wouldn't work. The kinyan wouldn't take effect because according to Rav Chisda, there is no misappropriation if you do it accidentally, and so therefore, wherever the money is, they have the name hektish. So if that's the case, how could he acquire something with money that's not his? So the Gemara is going to challenge Rav Chisda now, who says that also by a sale it doesn't work, and the reason is, we have a case from the Me'ilah Chaf Aleph from a base where we have a treasurer who deposited some money, and he could have deposited his money from the temple. The treasurer of the temple deposited his money in one of three cases. He could have put it with a person who's called a shulchani. If he put his money with somebody whose job it is to always exchange money, and so therefore, under those circumstances, we're saying that the money changer, if he used it, for sure, the treasurer is going to be the one who did the deposit, who did the me'ilah, the misappropriation, because the money changer uses money, so that's the expectation when he gets it. So it's not his fault that he used the hektish. And then there is the baal bias. If he put it in somebody's home, and that person was not supposed to use anything that's deposited in his home, so therefore the baal bias, if he used it, it's going to be considered to be to have been mal. And then there's a third possibility, which is a shopkeeper. So do we compare the shopkeeper to the baal bias or to the money changer? So that's what. So Ace Face Rav Chibar Avin challenges Rav Chisda, because we learn about a treasurer who deposits money with a chanvani, with a shopkeeper. Kibal Abayis. Rameir says he's like the Baal Abayis, and so therefore, if the shopkeeper uses it, he's moel. Rabbi Yehuda says that the chanvani is kishulchani, that the shopkeeper is like the money changer, and he's not moel. Ad kan will come miflagi, where they arguing on the Mar Savar Chanvani kishulchani and Mar Savar Chanvani Kibal Abayis. They're only arguing. Do we say the shopkeeper is like the Baal Bias or like the money changer? But everybody says that if the shopkeeper would have used the money for his own needs, for sure, he would be liable for misappropriation. And so we see from here that even according to Rabbi Meir, it would work by a mechar, by a sale, because otherwise, why is this considered me'ilah? So the Gemara says, no, Rabbi Meir, when he said this, that the shopkeeper is moel, that the shopkeeper is like the owner of the house, and he's considered to be misappropriating with devrav to Rabbi Yehuda cover. He's saying according to Rabbi Yehuda's position, he's saying, I don't think the shopkeeper has misappropriated if he used it accidentally. But according to you, you should at least admit to me that the shopkeeper is like the Baal Bias. And Rabbi Yehuda responds, no, he's like the shulchani. He is like the money changer. So that's the first piece of the Gemara, why we're saying that Rabbi Meir says if you betroth the woman accidentally with hektish, it doesn't work. And we saw two explanations. One is from Rabbi Yirmiyah, and one is from Rabbi Yaakov. That one is from Rabbi Yirmiyah. It doesn't work because they wouldn't have wanted the hektish to be deconsecrated through them. And the other explanation is from Rabbi Yaakov, who says he doesn't care. The husband wouldn't care if it was deconsecrated, but only she would have cared. And also we saw the explanation of Rabbi Yehuda. Why does Rabbi Yehuda say Meiser Sheni is no good? Either she alone wouldn't want the journey, or the husband also wouldn't want to be responsible for that journey. And so tomorrow the Gemara is going to give a different reason why, according to Rabbi Meir, if you betroth accidentally with hektish, it doesn't work. But now we'll stop the recording here. I just want to say one thing before people head out, and that